Hey everybody, as you see, I'm not there this morning. I'm on a field trip with my youngest daughter. We are going to Walnut Grove Plantation. So I wanted to go ahead and put this little video together to go ahead and show you the books that I read. The first one that I have is called The Oxcart Man by Donald Hall. And I found this sitting in the bank waiting area. They had a copy of it, and so while I was waiting, I took a look through the book and really enjoyed it, so I made sure I went and found this at the library. It's a good book to talk about economics and goods and services, capital, natural resources. The book is setting comes from around the 1800s, and it's about a man who gets all their goods together that they've made or that they've grown, and he's going to town to sell it. And there was a lot of little words in there that maybe the kids wouldn't know, like a shawl, a loom. The little boy made birch brooms. The man sold the ox's yoke and harness, and they also made their own maple sugar. So I thought those were very good things that we could talk to with our students on those things. So the man goes to town and sells all their goods, and then when he gets back, basically they start over again, and that's how they survive. The second book I have is called Just in Time, Abraham Lincoln, and this is a Patricia Polacca book, and I've liked many of her titles. This is about two boys and I can't remember if it was their aunt. I believe it's their aunt takes them, and they end up at a museum about the Civil War, and the two boys get interested in, once they finally see some guns and cannons and bayonets and cannonballs, they get really excited. Well, the gentleman at the museum, he lets the boys go into a room, and basically they go into an area where they are reenacting the Civil War. Well, the boys really get into it, and they honestly believe that they're actually at the Civil War, and they actually get to talk to Abraham Lincoln. And it's in 1862 at the Antietam battle, and I always say that wrong, but that's one of the biggest battles. They had 23,000 dead and wounded in one day during the Civil War. And we know that from that war, the Union won, and we had the Emancipation Proclamation declared on January 1st, 1863, and the book talks all about this, and I think it's really good for the kids because the boys are actually out there on the battlefield, and they get to see one of the scenes in the book is when the boys first see all the dead bodies out on the battlefield, and it kind of gives the kids a good image without being too bad, but they can put into a bigger reality of what's going on in the war. You know, you see the animals. I think a lot of times kids don't think about all what really went on in the war. They don't really think about the animals being killed also. But this will be a good book to put kids' perspective about the Civil War. The third book I got is called Knit Your Bit. And this one was interesting because it's about time during World War I. And I really liked in the front that they have the black and white pictures, and the pictures actually show what this book is about. It's about everybody chipping in and knitting items for the soldiers. during World War One, and it's from the perspective of this little boy. And at first, he thinks that because he's a boy that he shouldn't be knitting, but it turns out that men, women, boys, and girls all become knitters, and they knit socks and the mufflers the soldiers put on their hands, and sweaters and socks. And so that was a real good perspective, not just war that was going on, but what was actually happening at home. And then this book, Crossing Bokchido, I really took a liking to this book. It's by Deborah Hopkinson, and oh, I'm sorry, no, the Knit Your Bit was by Deborah Hopkinson. This one, Crossing Bokchido, is by Tim Tingle. And the book is about a little Choctaw girl named Martha Tom, and they live on one side of the river, and on the other side of the river are the white people and their slaves. And at that time, if the slaves were able to get away and cross the river, it was against the law for them to try to go back and get the slave. So once they crossed that river, they were free. So Martha goes across the river, and the Indian people had actually built up areas of rock right underneath the river so they could actually cross. And if the river rose up, they would build it up higher, and if the river was down, they would build it back down. So this was the way that they got across the river. So in the end, Martha actually ends up, well, in the beginning she meets Mo, or they call him Little Mo, and in the end, she actually ends up helping the family get across, and so then they get free. And so that takes place in Mississippi. And a lot of these books I really like because in the end, they have the reality, like where they got these stories from. And several of the books had these at the end, and I really like that, that it was told in a very interesting story that the kids can understand, and then they go back and piece it together for them. And the fifth book that I have is Clara's New World by Jeanette Winter. And this book is about immigrating. And this one's about the little girl, and they're from Sweden, and they get letters from a friend about how good America is, and how the land is real fertile, and they're able to plant crops and get good crops from the planting, and that the animals are fat and they're living well. So this book goes through all about this family selling off all that they can and packing up what little bit they can carry to come over to America. So that's a good book about immigration. And in the end of this one, it actually had one of those little detailed about people that immigrated around that time, and how they would be on someone else's land, and the landowner would use the best crops or the best fields for their crops, and they tried to convince Swedish people at that time that America was not fertile, and they tried convincing them that it was no good to go over there. But from the letters that were coming back from America, many people decided to immigrate. So that was my 5 books. One other set of books that we have here at the house, I didn't have to go to the library, was the I Survived books. And I was looking at those. My daughter has really enjoyed those books, and they can be used a lot in the social studies class, and I think those books would really be a good way to integrate our English language arts curriculum with the social studies, because only got so much time, so we've got to find ways to integrate those two. So those I Survived book series, there's Titanic, I Survived about Titanic and the wars, and a lot of other things. So that's another good group of books to have to integrate the ELA with the social studies. I'm going to post this video, and I'm going to post, I'm going to go ahead and type up the names and the titles and the authors of these books. So if you want to look those back up, or if you have a list of books, you could keep them in there with yours. So I hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my video, and I will see you all on Tuesday. Thank you. Bye.